Welcome, and green and growing. Steve Sparky Fifer with you. It's been a while. It's all my fault. I've had a lot going on, so my apologies for missing the Tuesday podcast this week, as well as if you follow Curd and Long. We have not gotten to that for multiple reasons between me and Ryan Horvat, but we will be recording again on Friday. Finally, Spare Time Bowling Show did get recorded Wednesday night. If you're a PBA bowling fan, you can check that out wherever you download your favorite podcast app. With that being said, here is our guy, Nathan Marzion. And our first topic today, to keep or to trade Bucks draft picks. Where did I get this topic idea? Just like where you can have your topic ideas. Nathan Marzion's Twitter account, of course. Why else? You follow him at Nathan Marzion, and then he gives you stuff to talk about every day. He's just a wonder kid when it comes to having all these different topic ideas. So I just follow his lead, and we do them on the podcast. All right, Nathan Marzion, you really thought this out and gave reasons of why they should keep them, of why they shouldn't keep them, and why they, kind of where they sit right now. I will tell you, for me, I think that it makes the most sense for them to trade those picks. I will say I don't want them to, but I think it makes the most sense while Doc Rivers is the coach that you probably trade him. Having said that, let's go over your reasoning and your bullet points here as far as what you had written down on Twitter one by one, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting conversation, and I think it's something that makes this offseason very interesting. Was like they have two picks, and they're both decent picks. You have the 23rd and 33rd picks, so they're not late second round picks. They're legit picks, and they're going to have a decision of what to do with them. And the reason this is so interesting is there's this whole dilemma of, okay, well, yes, you are absolutely a win now team right now. So theoretically, it makes more sense to trade those picks and try to get, if you can, to try to get a proven player that can help you right now. You don't have to hope that the pick hits. And you don't have to take the chance on it. You just get someone right now. But on the other side, everyone's saying they need youth. They need to develop some talent. They need, a spark. And they also ideally, need a cheap young role player that can contribute. What's the best way to get that player is through the draft. Now you have to hit on the picks, so there's the risk there and everything. But it's if you can hit the pick, okay, it totally makes sense to use that pick and get a cheap young role player. But again, there's just the question of, are you actually going to hit the pick? So I wrote down the reasons,
Right.
why they could trade their pick. A, you get more proven player that can that fits more into your win now mode. B, you could trade the pick because it's a very weak draft class. This is not a draft class that many people are excited to have picks in. And, I know that can affect the trade value of your picks, but either way, essentially your 23rd pick is like a normal early second round pick, I'd say, in most drafts. And your early second round pick, the 33rd pick that they have, is like the 40th to 45th pick that in most drafts. So these picks just aren't as valuable as they usually are in this year's class. Number 3 reason you could trade the pick, Horst and this team does not have a great history of drafting and developing talent. So it's not, I don't think many people have confidence that if they do use the pick, it's going to be a home run or be someone that, is able to contribute right away and everything. And D.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. The lone guy that's worked out has been DiVincenzo. He's not on this team, but he's the lone guy really that he's drafted that's actually worked, right?
Yeah, I mean, under the Horst regime, they drafted DJ Wilson, horrible. They drafted Dante, good pick, but I wouldn't say they developed him a ton. He was good. They got him.
But he's still in the league and playing. That's what my point is. He's still playing in the league. Yes.
Yeah, but I think it does still speak to, and this isn't Horst's fault. Like Horst made the right pick, but I think it still speaks to they have not had the people in place to be able to develop talent, whether that be the coaching, whether that be whoever.
Yep.
They haven't been able to do that. Again, Dante did not reach his full potential here. Dante got about half of his potential here and then ended up finding it in New York. But you had the Dante pick, which was a good pick. And then they traded a couple picks in between there. They had the Marzion pick, which was not a good pick, at least as of right now. And then last year, Andre Jackson, which seems fine. So it's not like awful. It's not like he's never hit on a pick ever, but it just, they don't have a great track record. And then the 4th reason why you would trade the pick is, as you said, Doc Rivers does not seem super likely to play these young guys anyways, just like in their first year. So if they're not going to be able to come in and contribute right away, regardless, you probably just have to trade the pick at that point, because if they use the pick, I'd have to believe, and the only reason I'd be happy they use the pick is if they actually give that guy playing time and give him a chance to right away come in and contribute. Because if you're drafting someone that you have no plans to help you this year, then I think that's a huge mistake. Again, we are trying to win a title this season. It's not about trying to develop a guy for 3 years from now. It's not about trying to extend the window later. It's about winning a championship right now. Now, if you find someone that you really think can contribute this coming season, you give them a whole regular season to get ready. Hold on one sec. You give them 82 games to get accustomed to the league and get them ready, and then hopefully in the playoffs they can give you something. Okay, then I'd understand using the pick. Go ahead.
I have a question, Professor. And knowing that you do love you some Marquette Golden Eagles, Professor, would you say Iguodala or Kolek could help them this year and contribute right away, Professor? Because I had Mike DeCourcy of Sporting News and Big Ten Network on. He really is high on both and thinks Iguodala for sure should be a first-round pick and hopes he's a first-round pick, which means the Bucks, who need a big, would be one of those teams that would kind of make sense for him. Kolek would make sense from a backup point guard perspective behind the aging Damian Lillard instead of Pat Bev. And I'm pretty sure Kolek won't throw basketballs at the fans in the stands. So that also would be a positive. Go ahead, Professor.
For the Bucks, I personally do not like. I personally do not like those guys too much for the Bucks.
You're kidding me. What?
I love me some Marquette Golden Eagles, but Oso is not the type of big that we need. Yes, he has a little bit more defensive versatility and everything, but the offense, that's not what you want on offense. And I don't even know if I trust him. Like, I don't think he's ready to come in and contribute right away. And so that is a double no for me, where I'm like, okay, not only do I not think he's the offensive archetype that we need at center, because he can't shoot, but B, I think he needs a couple years to fill out and to really mature, develop a little bit. So I don't think I want Oso. And then as far as Kolek, I think Kolek could come in and contribute. The problem is, I think that if we're going to draft a guard, I would want it to be more of a defensive focused guard and an athletic guard. And I don't think Kolek is really either of those things. He's not overly athletic. He's not overly good at defense. He's more of just a ball handler, passer, playmaker. Which again, I think he can come in and contribute for a team right away with that. I'm not saying if we got him, he wouldn't do anything with us, but I don't think he'd fill the needs that we have, that are our biggest needs. So I wouldn't personally love either of those guys with the Bucks, but if I had to pick one, I would say Kolek. But okay, back to this. So the reasons why the Bucks could use their pick now, so we gave the reasons why they could trade it, reasons why they could use it. As I said, it's a chance if you can hit it and get someone that can contribute right away. You get a cheap young role player for a few years that is huge for maximizing your team's potential, and with trying to stay under the cap and you're trying to get cheap guys right now. You're trying to get guys on the fringe of your roster that can contribute. If you can find a guy in the draft with the 23rd or 33rd pick, that's a huge win. Now, again, the chance of that happening, that's up to kind of people to decide if they think it's worth taking that chance. Because if it doesn't hit, you kind of waste a roster spot and you waste a chance at trading that asset for something better. The other thing I think, or other reason why they could use their pick, is like the only reason I would understand if they use their pick on a guy, and I still wouldn't prefer this, but I would understand if they use the pick on a guy that isn't going to contribute this year, would be if it's a Brook Lopez replacement for 2025. And you're saying we're going to draft a guy that would be what I would want to be an athletic, floor spacing potential big. There's a couple guys in that draft I like that can both potentially shoot the ball and they're athletic and play some defense. And if you say, hey, we're going to draft this guy, give him 1 year under Brook, under this coaching staff to develop a little bit, and then once 2025 rolls around, that's our guy going forward, I would understand that. Now, again, it would not be what I would do personally, because for me, that's sacrificing some of this year's potential for planning for the future. And that is not my goal. I'm going into every season trying to maximize this season, but I would at least get what they're trying to do if they went that route. So again, there's this debate between, do they just go for youth, and hope that these young players that are unproven, they pick right and they get someone that can contribute right away, or do you go the safer route that doesn't have as high a potential, doesn't have as great a payout potentially, and trade these picks and try to get someone that can just come in and be a decent bench playoff guy, or decent, maybe borderline starting playoff guy if you trade both picks. Um, and you can pack it. That's the thing is, you're probably gonna. I mean, you're not gonna just trade these picks straight up for a player. You'd probably be packaging them with either Pat Connaughton, Marzion Beauchamp, Bobby Portis, whatever you're trying to trade to get a real upgrade, because they don't have a ton of assets and to upgrade guys right now. So these are kind of the few assets they have to attach to guys to be able to upgrade. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm guessing they will end up trading the picks, knowing their history, knowing how they usually operate, which is typically they're trying to go get guys that they can just win now with, and not have to hope that a pick pans out. And I think people do need to understand the very low percentage of picks that pan out outside of the lottery. I think people see 23rd, 33rd pick and they just think, oh, we can draft someone young and good and everything. And it's like, you could. The chance is not very high, though. The number of guys that come in and contribute right away at that, at those type of picks is not high. And it's very, very low, in fact. So it's not a super safe bet to assume that we can just find a guy in the draft in the 20s or 30s that can come in and be a playoff guy for us in year one. So I think people need to be a little bit cautious of their just love and want for youth right away, and using these picks and getting a young guy, because more often than not with these type of picks, it doesn't pan out and you end up kind of with nothing. So that's just, I want to kind of say that.
I don't see how they keep these picks unless they trade Beauchamp, they trade Jackson, and they get rid of the young guys they already have on the roster. Doc Rivers is not going into the next season with 6 young guys. It's just no chance.
Yeah.
It's just not happening, guys. So unless they can find somebody to take Beauchamp and Andre Jackson and AJ Green, if he can find somebody to take those dudes and then add these 2 guys that he drafts, because he's going to have say in what they do here with John Horst, and he can get 2 guys that he wants that I'm guessing will be seniors that have a lot of time of playing college basketball and a lot of run. I don't see Doc Rivers drafting a 19-year-old kid at the end of the first round and being happy with that with only a year of college basketball experience. I don't see that being a thing with Doc. I don't. They're going to be seniors or at least juniors, guys that have played 3 or 4 years of college basketball that he thinks he can plug and play, like you said. But he's not going to take, oh, boy, he's got high upside. In 3 years, he could be really good. Doc does not care about those people because Doc's got to win a ring now.
Yeah, and the Bucks should not care about those people, truthfully. Like, I know, again, that's exciting to a lot of people, because there are plenty of people that I think are just focused on, like fans I'm talking about, that I think are focused on, we need to start developing some young talent. And it's like, that shouldn't be our focus. As much as that would be nice, as much as great as that would be, your focus right now is not on developing young talent. It is winning a championship. And, if you can happen to get young guys in the process, great. But like, you got to just be the best team you can. It's not about trying to develop guys for down the road.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And that's the one thing that I'm intrigued by, because I think there is a lot of value for a team like the Bulls or somebody like that that's kind of trying to maybe not rebuild, but kind of redo their roster without having to give up, because they don't want to give up. The Pistons are just a lost organization. But again, if they end up getting a guy in there to be president of basketball operations that has some type of infinity or likeness to this draft class, and thinks, hey, boy, we could add 3-4 draft picks here in the top 33, whatever the case is, to add to what I've got already in 2 or 3 years, when these guys all kind of come together, maybe that makes sense. Now, again, who is that guy on that roster? I don't know. I'm not looking at rosters necessarily. I'm just trying to figure out teams that would want 23 and 33. Ideally, you'd package them together to get a bigger name, more proven player, versus Connaughton in 33 for some dude that's probably the same as Connaughton, if not better. Like I don't really want to do that. If we're going to do this, then let's go get a real guy that can come in and have a rather big impact. Like for instance, Caruso. Right. So what does he command? What does he bring? Does Chicago want a player and a first for him? Does that get it done for Caruso? And is it worth giving up that pick in the first round to get freaking Alex Caruso? Yeah, he's a nice defender. He can hit the three ball. Am I a big fan? Absolutely not. But he what?
Would you not trade a player in 23 for Alex Caruso? I would trade me. Look, I would trade Bobby Portis 23 and 33 to get Alex Caruso.
No. No, absolutely not. No, I'd lose my.
If we had Caruso, dude, as our fifth starter, I mean, that's a freaking heck of a lineup. Dame, Caruso, Chris, Giannis, Brooke, and you ideally then
have no scoring on the bench.
I mean, I don't care. The lineup. It's 6 to 7 deep in the playoffs, and as long as 4 to 5 of those guys can score, that's all I care about. And then you just fill out your team with bench defenders. I would like that.
I don't think Bulls fans smile as much as you smile when I say Alex Caruso. I think you like Caruso more than Bulls fans like Caruso. And I think that's just way too much for me. I'm not giving a Bobby Portis and a 1 and a 2 for Alex Caruso. No, I'm not doing that.
If they were higher picks or if it was a better draft class, I'd be more like, that's a lot of assets to give up. But I mean, at this point, I'm just like, these two picks are not that valuable, even combined. I don't think they're that valuable. I think you can get something for them. But to me, an upgrade from Bobby Portis to Alex Caruso is something that is more than something to me. And again, some people might disagree, but when we talk about like impact in the playoffs and what you can do in the playoffs and the defensive level, I mean, to me, it's not super close between those two guys. So, I mean, and ideally, obviously, you could try to just trade one of those picks and get him, and maybe that's realistic. But I'm just saying, if I had to, I'd be willing to put both in there. And I think when I talk about, because I often say, like, if you can trade those picks for a decent player or a useful player, and people are always like, well, what does that mean? Or like, what type of player is that? What does useful mean? To me, if you can play and be in the rotation in the playoffs consistently, I'm more than willing to trade those picks. Like that to me is like, if you can get that, okay, then what are we keeping the picks for? If we could just go get a guy that can play in the playoffs right now, instead of trying to develop a guy to be able to play it in the playoffs. Like at that point, you're just like, you're basically just taking the 80th, 85th percentile outcome that your draft pick could be and just taking that right now. And I'm like, I would 100% do that as a win now team. That's kind of like how you have to operate, instead of holding out and hoping that your guy can reach his full potential. And the odds are he's probably not. And you got to wait for him to do that if he is going to. And it's like, they don't have the time to do that. They don't have they can't afford to risk, that the pick not panning out and getting nothing for it. So it's like, if you can trade it for a guy that can play in the playoffs right now, they're not going to be a star, but anyone that can contribute in the playoffs consistently. I mean, to me, it's a no brainer. Like that's how I'm operating with this whole trading and the picks and everything. Is like, it's like have you seen the Family Guy meme? I think it's Family Guy, where it's like, oh, well, it's like the mystery box and the boat and everything. Have you seen that?
No.
So the guy and his wife are like, they were saying, okay, you can either have the boat or you can have the mystery box. And then the wife is like, well, we'll just take the boat. And the guy, then the husband's like, well, hold on. Let's take the mystery box, because we don't even, like, the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. And it's like, that's the joke, is like, okay, you're taking the mystery box, which you're hoping to end up being a boat, but you could just take the boat and walk away right there. That's kind of how I feel a lot of times with Bucks fans and their whole, with the picks and the young talent and being afraid to trade young guys. It's like, if you can trade a young guy or a pick for a proven player that you are very confident can contribute in the playoffs, why are you not doing it? Because you're hoping that the pick or the player turns into that. So that's how I feel.
Yes, Nathan Marzion. Follow him on Twitter at Nathan Marzion. Follow me at Sparky Radio, Green and Growing Podcast. Download it on your favorite Odyssey app. or you can download wherever you download your favorite podcast at. Also, check us out streaming on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page as well. I normally do these on Monday and Thursday nights. Again, my apologies for not getting Monday night's podcast done. That was all my fault. But glad we are back at it here on Thursday night with Green and Growing. Take a quick time. I'll come back. Bucks make some coaching staff changes. Some of you had issues with them. And a rumor floating around about somebody the Bucks do want. That made me smile very big. Thanks to Nathan Marzion. We'll tell you who that is. Coming up next, Green and Growing Podcast. Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer, 1250 a.m. The Fan, host of Wisconsin Sports Daily, afternoons 2 to 5 on 1250 a.m. The Fan. He is Nathan Marzion. Follow him on Twitter at Nathan Marzion. You can follow me at Sparky Radio or at 1250 a.m. The Fan. That works too. Time to talk about some Bucks coaching staff changes. And I brought it up here on my phone to talk about. First of all, let's talk about Sidney Dobner and DJ Baker, both fired first. Marzion, do you care?
I mean, I don't want to sound disrespectful to them. I don't know enough about what they were doing or how they were doing their jobs.
So you don't care. Me either.
No.
I don't care that they got fired either. Don't care. Okay. Josh Oppenheimer, I care about. Now, that's the third one that got fired, and this was the one that I kind of care about. I only care about him because Giannis cares about him. And if Giannis cares about you, I care about you, because if Giannis isn't happy, nobody's happy, especially not Nathan. So from that aspect, they better know what the heck they're doing getting rid of Josh Oppenheimer. This is the second time he got let go in Milwaukee. And the last time he got brought back was why? To get Giannis figured out at the free throw line and so forth and get him going in the right direction again. And now he hits the road again. I don't know Doc's reason. I don't care what Doc's reason is. Doesn't matter to me. I just hope that they consulted with Giannis first before they decided to let go of Josh Oppenheimer. I really hope Doc didn't think he could just go do this willy-nilly without talking to Giannis first. The other two, don't care. Oppenheimer, I hope he talked to Giannis first, Nathan.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, with every move they make that involves Giannis in any way or the big personnel decisions, you have to kind of assume that, yes, they're talking to Giannis. Yes, they're getting his approval or his okay with this stuff, because it'd be just dumb not to. And so I'd have to imagine that if they are making that move, it's because Giannis approved of it or was like, yeah, I understand or whatever. I know a lot of people were very happy that he was let go because of, it's been well documented how Giannis' shot hasn't improved a ton and the free throws have kind of been up and down. And it's like he's never found that consistent groove shooting wise. And so I think people are ready to see another shooting coach kind of come in here just to see if they can help. At this point in his career, like, I don't think it will. I think Giannis is just who he is, but maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance someone can come in and, just get it a little bit better. Get him to 75% free throws. Get him to
Nathan,
40% mid-range. What?
Send him your video from Twitter. You're the shooting doctor. Just send him your video taking those shots, last year, whatever it was. And just be like, hey, man, I'm available. I'm here. I'm cheap. I'll come in. Here's my video of me playing basketball in the driveway. I'll come in and I'll be your guy. I think they'd be down for it.
I am a good. When I was young, I shot. We had this thing where we would shoot 100 free throws, everyone on our team, and it was like for charity or whatever. However many you made, donated a certain amount. I think I made like 88 out of 100 or something like that. So I was a good free throw shooter. So
there you go.
If Giannis needs any pointers, I've got him. So he can always DM me.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So Oppenheimer is out. And again, no disrespect to the other two, but I really don't care. So let's talk a little bit about a guy that I do care about and a guy that I would like to see added. Sam Cassell, I wanted to be the head coach. He was not even a Final Three person that the Bucks front office chose. We didn't even get that far. Now apparently the Lakers are going to interview him. I don't know why people bother, because clearly nobody's going to hire him at this point. So do what you got to do. So Sam apparently is being pursued by Doc Rivers and the Bucks. Sam has been on numerous Doc staffs over the years. It makes sense. Doc trusts him. Sam obviously likes coaching with him. Sam's lived in Milwaukee, been a part of the fabric, part of the history here. The Eastern Conference Finals run before they got screwed over by Stu Jackson. All of that, I'd be elated and ecstatic. And my dream then would be, after this team fails the next couple of years in the playoffs, they fire Doc, promote Sam, and they win a championship with Cassell as the head coach. that then would be my dream kind of that I would try and live out here going forward with this Bucks organization. Marzion, your thoughts on Sam? Because you're the one that tipped me off on that whole thing.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, like, good to see and exciting news to hear of, like, just the possibility of, "Hey, we could get Sam Cassell back," because I know that's been a big, assistant coach name tied to again, obviously, you said he's lived in Milwaukee, he's been tied to the Bucks a little bit, been with Doc throughout his coaching career, for a while, so it's not unrealistic to think that he would leave and come here. So, if they can get him, yeah, that'd be a huge step in the right direction. I think just to even I mean, again, I know a lot of people are much more confident in Doc than Griffin, and I think most people are like, I don't think many people are like super anti Doc as far as Bucks fans. I think a lot of people are just kind of in the middle, like, okay, he's not great, he's not terrible, whatever. And I think
I
just
don't think
hiring
there's
a
a
guy,
tremendous amount of let me cut you off. I don't think there's a tremendous amount of faith that Doc can get it done. I don't think it's hate.
yeah,
I just think people look at him and go, it's probably not going to end up well in the playoffs when we have him, but whatever. It's better than Adrian Griffin. I think
yeah,
that's what a lot of sentiment is.
yeah, I would say that. And so I don't know. I think hiring some good assistants just would help people be a little bit more confident, a little more comfortable. Like, okay, we've got Sam Cassell in here, we've got some good assistants in here. Like, um, and giving them more time with the core, and at least giving him more than 6 games with the big three together will help. Like all that stuff, I think will just contribute to people having a little bit more faith in Doc. I'm not saying they'll have total faith or a lot of faith, but I think just having a little bit more and being a little bit more comfortable with the coaching situation if they can get Sam Cassell.
The one thing about this with the Bucks, talking about another guy I didn't want to see go, and as of right now, he's there, Joe Prunty. I mean, Classy Joe still there on that staff. And I like that because, again, Doc doesn't need a gray hair because he's a gray hair, even though you can't see it. But Prunty is another veteran assistant that has been, a part of this thing, was part of this thing last year, knows Lillard, knows Giannis, Middleton, all these guys. So he didn't tear apart the coaching staff and decide, I'm going to completely start over. Vin Baker is kept. He talked about Vin Baker's role after the season about, dealing with Bobby Portis after he got booted out of that game and how he was kind of the middleman between him and Doc and the other coaches on the staff. Now, again, did they force him to keep Vin and Prunty? I have no idea. Couldn't tell you if that was the case. But Doc has to have some freedom to hire who he wants, I think. That has to be part of it, Nathan, without them forcing guys on him like they forced on Griffin.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely does, and I mean, I think there's going to be a good mix, as you kind of said, of yes, we're bringing in some new people and better people, I think, but also keeping some of those veteran guys, the guys that have been here for a while, that are comfortable with the players and everything, keeping those guys here. And um, I think with how much turnover they went through last year, it's important not to completely overhaul things again too much, and have some level of consistency and uh, not too much turnover. So yeah, I think that continuity piece can help a lot this year, at least compared to last year. Again, last year they went into the season, and throughout the season there just was not a lot of continuity. It was never you were never able to consistently get a group together that was working well and just cohesive and all that, for any extended period of time. Now you should be able to really kind of reset and say, hey, okay, well, we're going to have our coaching staff. We're going to have some guys that have been here for a while. We're going to have a couple new people, but the core is the same. The head coach is the same. The GM is going to be the same. A couple main assistants are going to be the same. Like it'll be more continuity. It'll be a good mix, I think, for next season, that they can keep some guys and also bring a couple new people in.
I totally agree. All right, take a quick break, come back. Other side, I want to talk about coach killers in the NBA. Who are those guys? Because there's a couple of names that have been under fire here in the last couple of days in the NBA for being just that. They're rather large names. So let's talk about that coming up next year. Green and Growing Podcast, download it on your Odyssey app, or if you download your favorite podcast at Steve Sparky Fifer, Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's served up by Wendy's weekday afternoons from 2 until 5. Follow me at Sparky Radio. He is Nathan Marzion. Follow him at Nathan Marzion. Also on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Back after this, Green and Growing. Back on Green and Growing, Steve Sparky Fifer, along with Nathan Marzion at Sparky Radio, at Nathan Marzion. Check me out at Wisconsin Sports Daily, 2 to 5, weekday afternoons on 1250 a.m. The Fan. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell complete strangers in the grocery store. Just please tell everybody so we can grow our audience. Who are the coach killers in the NBA? That is the question at this moment in time. And to be honest with you, I never really thought at any point that we'd be having this conversation about LeBron James necessarily. But at the end of the day, I think we're having this conversation about LeBron James. And Channing Frye is the one that kind of brought it up and went at LeBron and AD and pretty much warned JJ Redick, don't take that job because you're not going to have that job for long, having to coach those guys. And then specifically with that roster around him, that doesn't really make sense, that you're pretty much putting yourself in a position, not to be successful at the end of the day. He also said that JJ Redick's going to be a good coach. You don't have to tell me that. I know that. How do you know that? The man's never even coached a grade school team, I don't think. How do we know that JJ Redick is going to be a good coach in the NBA? We have no idea. If JJ Redick gets that job, it's because LeBron and him do a podcast and they're boys. That's why he gets that job. There's no other reason JJ Redick is getting that Lakers job. Sam Cassell is more qualified than him a million times over. So if, again, this is not about anything other than what LeBron wants, LeBron gets at the end of the day. Kevin McHale, he went at LeBron and Durant and pretty much said those two suck the oxygen out of the room upon entering a room at the end of the day. And essentially, you're just waiting to be fired when you take both jobs, having to coach either one of those guys. So I think at this point, you can classify both superstar players, both Hall of Fame guys, as coach killers in the NBA, which is stupid. Like, that was never, again, I'm going to go back in time. Sorry. But that was never a thing with Michael Jordan. That was never a thing with Larry Bird. That was never a thing with Magic Johnson. You never had that type of stuff. Coach killers, guys are getting coaches fired. And in today's NBA, that is exactly what's happening. These stars have so much power now that when you reach a certain level of stardom, you have the power to essentially hire and fire coaches or demand a trade if you're not happy. And that's kind of how it goes. Look at this Cleveland fiasco. They get eliminated, and within, what was it, a couple of hours? I don't think the game was even a couple hours old. And Wojnarowski is out there. Well, Donovan Mitchell, he doesn't like it in Cleveland. And Bickerstaff's going to probably be in some trouble in Cleveland because of Donovan Mitchell, yada, yada, yada. And then Mitchell comes back to him and goes, I'm fine in Cleveland. I'm good. Like, don't worry about me. I'm happy. Now, who to believe, I don't know. But that's crazy. They hadn't even probably got to sleep yet. And Wojnarowski's already talking about they probably going to get a new coach in Cleveland because of the star point guard, Donovan Mitchell. Who are the coach killers in the NBA? Nathan Marzion, who do you think?
The two names that come to mind are definitely LeBron. I mean, I just feel like LeBron always had, like, the blame's never put on LeBron. I know he's a great player. He's usually not the number one to blame, but it just feels like he always gets players, traded. He gets coaches fired. Everything, if they fail, everything around him is going to change. Everything around him, is going to get the blame, and it will never be on LeBron. It'll never be, the finger will never be pointed at him. And so I think he's someone that, it is obviously a coach killer. And then I think recently I feel like KD's been a coach killer with Brooklyn and with the Phoenix. I think he's become one where it just feels like, it's none of these coaches have been able to, I don't know, just totally unlock him or totally make teams successful with him. And then they kind of get run out, and I think he's now on his fourth coach in a couple of 2 or 3 years. So yeah, it feels like LeBron and KD right now are definitely the two names that come to mind for me. I'm sure some people would say Giannis, given that we just went through the two coaching changes very swiftly, but I think Giannis definitely was part of getting Coach Bud fired. And the hiring of Griffin.
What about Adrian Griffin?
I don't think it was just Giannis continuously being like, fire this guy. It was just like they hired Adrian Griffin, and I think it just didn't work out. All the players kind of agreed. I don't think it was just Giannis. And then I think they just went another direction. So I don't know. I don't look at Giannis as a coach killer. I mean, I think that Giannis is mostly like someone that honestly respects his coaches too much to a fault sometimes. When Jason Kidd got fired, Giannis was upset. Um, and I think
Do you
like, and
remember
that
what he
was just
said?
where he was just like,
He
um,
said, "Do you want me to talk to the owners?" That's what he said. Coach, you want me to call the owners? You want me to talk to the owners? Meaning, at that point, he knew how much power he had, and he hadn't won anything to that point yet, one way or the other. So if back then he realized how much power he had, Nathan, how much power do you think Giannis has now?
he should have it. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I think sometimes Giannis is almost like too loyal to his coaches, so I'm not gonna call him a coach killer. I think that obviously at a certain point, I think Giannis recognizes maybe like, okay, this guy just might not be right for us. Um, I don't think either of their two firings have been bad firings. It's just that they didn't hire the right guy originally. But I don't think firing Bud was the wrong move. I don't think firing Griffin was the wrong move. Like it's not like he's Giannis is out there demanding some ridiculous stuff and like, oh, just keep firing these coaches and they're doing crazy, crazy stuff. No, I think they made one mistake of just hiring the wrong guy to begin with. So I don't know. If they had just simply hired Doc right out of the gate, I'm not saying people would have been happy, but I think there wouldn't be this conversation of like coach killer or all this drama going on in Milwaukee because it would have just been like, okay, they fired a coach and got a new one. But the fact that they hired the wrong coach right away, recognized it right away, and then made the switch makes everyone kind of look at him and be like, well, what's going on? So I don't know. But again, I think the two names that come to mind for me right now are LeBron and KD.
So this is the thing. Do these exist in other sports? Are there coach killers in Major League Baseball? Are there coach killers in the National Football League? Do we
I
hear
mean,
about this in other sports?
Yeah, Rogers. I mean, Rogers definitely got McCarthy fired when that was going on. I think there's definitely instances where quarterbacks kind of get sick of their coach. I think, and it kind of shows in their play, and it shows just in their attitude. And then eventually that coach gets let go.
He is Nathan Marzion. Follow me, Nathan Marzion. Follow me at Sparky Radio. We'll be back at this bad boy again on Monday night. Thanks for listening to another edition of Green and Growing. Download it on your Odyssey app. If you download your favorite podcast app, check us out on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Have a good one. Toodles.